Welcome to Political Paradigm. I am Terry Ikumi. Once again, we turn our attention to the internal party crisis of the All Progressives Grand Alliance. And I'm joined by one of the factional chairmen of the party who holds strong claims to the position of national chairman of the party, as he is listed on the INEC website as the chairman of All Progressives Grand Alliance, Chief Edozie Njoku. Welcome to Political Paradigm.
Yeah, thank you, Terry.
I'd like us to begin this on a legal note, as straightforward as it can be, because APGA has been enmeshed in a lot of legal battles, and I wonder what the situation is. But just to address the legal complexities, what is your legal claim to the national chairmanship of APGA?
Thank you very much. I was about to address being called a factional chairman, but the question you've asked me will actually expatiate more on that. In a nutshell, let me cut it very, very briefly to make you understand. We both did conventions. We did a convention in Owerri, and another convention purportedly held in Government House, Oka, or a Women Development Center in Oka. In that convention of ours, which was conducted by the party because they had already chosen the people who are the committee to conduct the elections, we went ahead with the elections in Owerri, the convention in Owerri, with the true delegates of the party. And they went to Oka, where the governor was, Obiano, sponsored it, and they held another convention in which Oye emerged. Fast forwarding a bit, 2 weeks after that, they went to court, to a FCT High Court in Abuja, in Jabi. Agbaze's court, the judge was Agbaze, and took me to court and took APGA to court, both myself and APGA, asking APGA not to recognize me as national chairman and asking me to stop parading myself as national chairman. We went to court. Just as the case was coming to an end, they decided to give up the case and disengage from that case. So we now moved to INEC and went on a court case against INEC, impelling INEC to recognize me as that national chairman as soon as they moved out. And when they moved out of the case, the judge told them that if they withdraw from that case, what automatically means that I can now parade myself as a national chairman, and APGA can go ahead and recognize me. So within a short period of time, Anambra elections started. And Anambra elections have a very, very big hold on a lot of things that happen in APGA. At that moment in time, some of the executives from my own, from the Owerri Convention, went to faraway Jigawa to remove me as national chairman. On removing me as national chairman there, behind my back, INEC recognized the Judo Keke. I'm sure you've heard that name, Judo. He was recognized instantly, and his candidate, now Umoji, was brought out as a candidate for that election. The next thing Soludo them did, now they would rush at the court, ran off to the Court of Appeal, and within the Court of Appeal, they got some order or something. Oye's name was included there, but it was not a party to the suit. The suit now moved up to we went there, we were not joined, but the Court of Appeal said they made a mistake that I ought to have been joined. We took that up to the Supreme Court. When we got to the Supreme Court, a lot of things went on there, but finally, the Supreme Court dismissed the matter. And in a paragraph on page 13, the lead judge, who was Mary Odili, now said that the removal of the national chairman, Chief Victor Ikoye, is an internal affair of the party and is not justiciable. And I know that Victor Ikoye was not the national chairman of APGA. He was not the person removed at Jigawa, but there was so much happening. So we gave some time for Soludo to be sworn in, so that there are different things. The leadership and the governorship matter are separated. So when the governor was sworn in and some time went by, I now wrote a letter personally to the 5 judges who looked at it and realized that they had made a mistake. They said in their letter, Odili wrote to me afterwards. But what now happened, when they made that change, the powers that be in Anambra State moved off. They went to the police. They went to court. So I'm sure you've heard the stories. They now charged me to court that I forged that amendment that was made by the Supreme Court, that made the retired lead judge, Mayor, to come out and write a letter and in a letter making it clear that they made those changes to that thing and that every benefit of that was meant to be mine. But the problem continued. I was now in court answering some charges of forgery. Thank God the judge cleared me of the forgery. But what now happened was, within that period of time, the Supreme Court CJN now wrote a letter to me now saying that I should come by way of emotion, so it's clear to the whole world. Let them make that correction in an open court. They went to the open court and made the correction, and my name was changed in there. And while that correction was tried to, this is a very important part of what I'm saying. While that correction was being made, the other side, which was headed by Oye, brought in a lot of objections. They said they had a judgment in Oka. They said they had another judgment all around. They brought everything to the Supreme Court. And the lead judge on that, the person who wrote the final judgment on that, made it clear that they made a fundamental error. Now, when I was removed, nobody claimed that I wasn't national chairman. They went ahead of the man who took my position as national chairman, and they never objected to it. So at the end of the day, he now said that Oye's name should be deleted from the judgment, and that it should be deleted, and the case should be dismissed, and I should revert back to the status quo. The status quo was me being removed at Jigawa High Court. What now happened was, at that moment in time, there were elections going on in Owerri, in Imo State, and Bayelsa State. They were doing primaries. And Oye was the one being recognized by INEC. And they are the ones who were... So, two members of our NWC went to the FCT court to ask them who are meant to be the ones to bring out the candidate, and they needed an enforcement of the judgment of the Supreme Court. Fortunately, unfortunately, I was already being charged for forgery in Court 40 in Buhari. So the CJ sent that case there, the case of those two gentlemen who were asking for an enforcement of the Supreme Court, because he's in a better place to know whether should the case be enforced or not, because they're claiming forgery on that particular judgment. So while that case was going on, they decided to use INEC to do congresses and a convention while depending on the... And the judge came and gave orders that they should not do any congresses and they should not do any convention. That was not enough for them. They now rushed to a court in Otuocha and got a judgment. That particular judgment they got, the Court of Appeal, in enforcement of the lower court, said that that judgment was fraudulent. And this happens to be the judgment, the order of court that stops the young man, Sly Ezeokenwa, which they now brought out while there was a pending orders. They disobeyed the order. Both INEC and Oye disobeyed the order. And the thing went up to be tried, and they were now convicted of contempt of court. Eventually, the case came to the end, and the judge gave a judgment saying that everything that happened in those conventions are null and void. Everything Oye has done since 2019 is null and void, because the Supreme Court had already deleted him.
Okay. No, let me come in here. You've had a lot of time to speak on this.
Okay.
I just want to pick on some of the things you said so that we address the legalities, and then we can move on to some other matters relating to the leadership. Which of the court orders did INEC obey? Okay, they obeyed, listing you as the national chairman of the party. They obeyed two judgments. One was a lower court judgment that asked them to vacate the office, that said they were not... What court is that? FCT, which was now affirmed by the Court of Appeal. Okay. So as soon as INEC were not obeying that judgment at the lower court, so we now went to the Court of Appeal, or they went to the Court of Appeal to knock off that judgment at there. And the Court of Appeal affirmed all 6 points. And as soon as the Court of Appeal gave their judgment, they obeyed the judgment. The Supreme Court's judgment that you talk about, was that part of what INEC obeyed as well?
That is the enforcement, yeah. You see, the Supreme Court do not enforce judgments. It has to be enforced by a lower court. Absolutely. So when they gave their judgment, it needed to be enforced by a lower court, which the lower court in Buhari enforced it. But they refused to obey it, and now rushed up to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal now reinforced it.
You know, one of the things that, and I spoke with Victoria, I think 3 weeks ago, former national chairman, one of the things he said about this whole judgment and enforcement was that he has not received any of the copies of these judgments, and INEC has also not been able to provide or produce what judgments they chose to obey.
Why you know that is not true? He's actually facing, a judgment of contempt has already been put on him, and he's facing sentences on the 28th of October for not obeying the judgment.
Talk to us about what this complexity means, because while you sit as national chairman and listed on the INEC website as such, especially with the Edo election, you were not the one who submitted the name of the governorship candidate of the party, were you?
That shows the magnanimity which we had. The name was submitted before I was recognized as national chairman, and I said then, I think it was on this
submitted by who?
By Oye's faction. That was when I was not being recognized. INEC were recognizing him.
No, so was it Oye's faction or was it Sly, the factional chairman?
Oye's faction. When Sly or Oye was
because because Oye's tenure ended since March.
One of them was
Sly submitted and INEC accepted that.
INEC were not recognizing me until the Court of Appeal judgment was made in June. You understand? They were submitting names. We know why I find it difficult, and you should as well, is that there was a court order and a judgment stopping that convention. So whether it was Sly or whether it was Oye, it was that faction that submitted a name to INEC. INEC are the only ones who can now tell you whether it was Sly or
No, I'm saying that the former national chairman said that Sly submitted.
He could say what he wants because he's the one who is propagating.
Why did you accept that submission if you don't?
We can't do anything. It's only a court that can do that. And as soon as they brought out a candidate and the process has been on, I'll be very stupid. And any other person who would like to do that is a very selfish person. We needed to just carry on with it and let it pass by. There are people in that state. They've spent their money. They've done things. You want us to just go because they were not in my fact to say, go away. No, we don't approach like that. It's probably Oye that will do that.
Okay, fair enough. Let me take you back a bit to that Owerri convention that you held. Talk to us about the processes in that convention.
Well, you see, that is why they were very fortunate they have the law, the court of law, to be able, where they put up all their whole, when we finished our convention, they took us to court. And they had all the law behind them to be able to dispute that convention we did. They withdrew from the court case. The question you should ask them, why did they withdraw?
No, I'm asking you, what's the report from that convention?
I don't know what report you're talking about.
The convention that
what I'm saying to you is that they had, you see, that is why you guys did what you did earlier on, when you tried to put me and him together. The last time I was on channels, words I always tried to put in my mouth. What I'm saying to you is that when you disagree with a process, you go to court. When you go to court and you suddenly withdraw your case, you've lost we've gone beyond that stage.
No, I don't think we have. I'm saying this because, remember, this conversation is coming on the heels of my interview with the former national chairman, and this is exactly what he said. The report from that convention, he questions it. In fact, he says there's no report. And that's why I'm asking you. What you
I'm telling you that there was a report. So what's your next? What other?
Beautiful. So who conducted that convention?
It is conducted by the convention committee elected by Oye. They brought the convention committee who now did the convention.
He disputes that anyways, because he said...
You see, that's the point I'm coming to. We're now saying he said. They had the courts to go to and challenge it. They were in court and they decided to withdraw. They can say anything and I can say anything. But thank God we have followed the law. And we followed the law to a logical conclusion. Let me tell you to the point it is. To the point that we got to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court now said, my removal is dismissed, and it goes back to the status quo. And my name put there, Chief Edo, it said on that page of the Supreme Court journal that whether the dispute was between two acting chairmen and whether the removal of the chairman, Chief Edo Njoku of APGA, is an internal affair, and it's not justiciable. It has got to the Supreme Court, down, enforcement has happened, Court of Appeal has reinforced it. So we are following the law.
Who occupies the national headquarters of...
The national headquarters of APGA is in Zone 4. That is where I decided that I don't want to go and waste lives. I don't want us to go fighting in there. The national secretariat, if you ask the man coming in, a paragraph of the court that has been affirmed in the Court of Appeal is that they should vacate the office.
Okay.
If I move in with my own people and they move in, we'll lose lives there. So what I did, we went to Zone 4 and got an office. And INEC has accepted that office as a secretariat. If we take over here as the Secretariat of APGA, it becomes the Secretariat of APGA. I don't need to go and start battling with people with guns to be able to take over an office. I don't operate like that. Since
your claim as national chairman of the party, what have you been able to perform? How have you been able to function?
What do you mean by that?
Have you been able to function as
yes, we are functioning. You are aware, because I know the press is aware, we've been to 22 different states. We've building our structures. We're going around telling people that we are reconciling them from the past. What we've been doing all that.
So where does the leader of the party come in all this?
Who is the leader of the party?
Chukwuma Soludo. He's the highest ranking member of the party.
I like that word. He's the highest ranking member of APGA. Traditionally in APGA, the governor was the BOT chairman, the governor was the leader of the party, the governor of the state. I wonder how you...
And that was an anomaly, I believe.
Well, if total abnormal, why would the governor be a BOT chairman? We should learn in this country that a governor is a governor. A national chairman is a national chairman. A councillor is a councillor. Your leader of the party is a person who went to Anambra State, decided to say that the House of Assembly will now be the ones who choose a candidate. The leader of that your party is the one who has gone now. When the Supreme Court have agreed that money is going to be going to the grassroots, has agreed and go to negotiate with the chairman that this percentage is going to be signed to the state and this percentage too. If Tinubu goes and signs a percentage of state money, would it be traditional to you or would it be the way it should be? Things should be done the way they should be done well. Traditionally, legally, the way it's done. It's not done. It's the way it's meant to be done. The way it's meant to be done. The constitution of the party should be upheld. A governor should be a governor. He shouldn't just be BOT leader. How will he face the big problems in Anambra when he's handling all those jobs? That's my own take. But it's for the party and the NWC to decide who is the leader of their party. We've not gotten there yet.
You know, one of the things that many fear with regard to APGA is perhaps a foundational problem. I don't know if you agree with that because it's been in one legal battle after another, almost since time of its inception. And I recall that Chekos Okure recently said that Governor Soludo is trying to destroy the party by not recognizing you. But it would seem that even he, as founding father of the party, is not even recognized. What does this say?
He is recognized by the party. I'm the recognized chairman of APGA. And unfortunately, I was the first vice national chairman of the party in 2000, which is 22 years ago. We had a vision. Yeah, and most political parties, wherever you are in the world, have a vision. We knew what we wanted. And what we wanted was, one of the things we wanted was not for a governor to come and take local government money or other little things. We had a vision of what we wanted. And APGA does not have a foundational problem. The problem of APGA is a problem that we're suffering in this state, whereby when people have a lot of resources at their hands, they feel they can ride roughshod over every other person. It shouldn't be like that. And the only time that we take cognizance to that is when it affects us. As far as you're sitting there, it doesn't affect you. But my friend, it affects you. It affects all Nigerians. The reason why we could have a bunch of plantain now, 12,000, and we have things 1,000 for 5,000, is because we've kept our eyes blind to what's happening to the other man. What's happening in APGA? APGA is so fortunate that they have someone as stupid as I am to be able to push this fight up to where it is today. If not, they would just be doing whatever they like, however they like it. And that's what happens in this country. And it's for people like you and me who have a little bit of enlightenment to be able to stay along the line. No, it should not really be like this. And we should be heard. We should be heard. It's not because when people are able to have their big money, they come and force it down people's neck, and we just want to accept it. It's not acceptable.
Are you not being heard now? I invite you.
Yes, you are. It is my resilience. You said it's a foundational problem. I'm saying it's not a foundation. It's my resilience that is making me heard. If I was not resilient, I would not have. You would have already swept me under this cupboard, not even under the carpet.
I don't think you like being questioned about.
No, you said we had a foundation. No,
I asked if there was a foundational problem.
No, we don't have the foundational
considering that the party has been immersed in one legal battle after another.
We don't have Africa doesn't have the foundational problem, my brother. It doesn't.
But what is your next line of action now?
Our next line of action is that they've gone to the Supreme Court. And by the grace of God, everything will come to an end, whichever way it does go. And the party will be, the shackles that are holding it will be free. Whether they think I'm the shackle, maybe, if they are the shackles, will be free. And the proper party will be built.
What is your tolerance for reconciliation? Are you open to it? And what would be reconciliation for you?
Let me answer your question simply by what you said earlier on. Look at Edo. They chose the candidate in Edo, and you kind of reprimanded me to know why I held on to them. Why I held on to the man in Edo is a sign of reconciliation. I don't need to be push him out because he was not singing my praises or he was with me. He has gone through a lot, and in between the way would have cost him a lot more harm than good. So those are all signs of reconciliation. I've been to the governor, talked with him, but he has his own plans. He has his own way.
But why do you think the governor doesn't recognize you?
I don't know. It's for you to ask him. I wouldn't guess.
But you say you've spoken with him.
Yes, but I wouldn't. I'm guess-minding him if by speaking to him.
If you spoke with him, I'd like to think that you try to find out what the problem is.
But I'm also allowed to tell that I did not find that out. Is that I'm telling you that I did not find out what the problem was.
And the reason is?
Because he didn't tell me what his problems were. I won't guess-mind him.
You know, I'm tilting towards reconciliation.
Yes,
I don't know
that's
if you
very
can
good.
sense that, but
That's
I'm tilting towards
That's
reconciliation.
fantastic. The party must have to reconcile in one way or another. It can't go on.
Who is going to lead this reconciliation?
We've led that recognition for so long. Let Soludo be the one to lead it this time. He is the governor of the state.
As leader of the party?
Yeah, he is the highest officer of the party.
You know, some believe that this is stifling the growth of APGA. I don't know if you agree with that, but when we look at political parties, one of the biggest concerns now is how courts are deciding the leadership of political parties. And many argue that that should not be the case, that conventions should naturally produce leaders.
The last statement on that is that the Supreme Court said in their judgment with my name that the removal of Edozie Njoku is an internal affair because I was removed in Jigawa and they made it clear my removal is an internal affair of the party and it is not justiciable. INEC have finally recognized. They have run off to FCT court trying to get a judgment. They're in another court in Oka. All those things, most likely by the grace of should end up, it's not justiciable. I am the national chairman of the party. And it is not justiciable. You cannot go to court to remove Edozie Njoku because it is not justiciable.
No, I wasn't speaking just about your party.
Okay.
I asked a general question on how political parties' processes can be strengthened such that courts don't get to intrude into the affairs of political parties.
Very, very true. But you see, things are not that simplistic. You understand? The courts will always somehow, because when you have governors and people who have all that money, they will bear things over the small. I'll give you an example. Why would I be in a fight for 5.5 years against two sitting governors? Do I look like a madman with all the resources they have? It's only the truth that fights like that. It's only the truth that fights. They have senators, they have governors, they have all. It's only the truth that fights, and the people will disbelieve in it, and you look like a madman. It's only the truth. Why would I go and fight Obiano? And Obiano is in America regretting it now. He's regretting it big time because you must stay on the truth. This truth will always out. Always comes out.
Okay, Chief Edozie Njoku, I'd like to thank you very much.
Thank you very much
for
indeed.
your time.
Thank you.
And as political watchers, we really do not enjoy the attention that you give us when it comes to back and forth on legal processes. So we're hoping that, APGA can put its house in order. Because one of the things I told the national chairman as well is the result of the 2023 elections showed that APGA hadn't grown as much as it should because the Labour Party came and overtook the All Progressives Grand Alliance. So maybe I'd end this by asking you what your growth plan is for the party. Hopefully, just if you can put this whole impasse to bed as soon as possible.
The plan of the party in 2002, when we registered the party, if you look at CPC, before Buhari became president, he had tried a lot of times. He moved back to CPC, built a sound, some governors around him who had the same vision as he did, and moved to the Southwest, where they merged with ACN. After his, Tinubu had tried with AD. He now moved out with this ACN, formed the APC, and they were able to take power. I believe that Africa should go backwards a bit and know that we cannot gain power through violence. It must be through dialogue. And how you have dialogue, you have the Yoruba, you have the Hausa, you have the Efik, you have them all in one political party. And within that party, as it is that the Igbos have a strong affinity and love for APGA, we gang ourselves together and move forward and go across the Niger, go across to the other side and see whether we have friends and brothers there who we can come together for our quest for presidency in time to come.
Chief Ezeokenwa, I'd like to thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed
for your time on Political Paradigm.
Thank you.
Well, that's all the time we have with Chief Ezeokenwa. We'll take a quick break now, and when we come back, the conversation continues. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Political Paradigm. Let's continue the conversation on APGA politics and the impasse within the party. I'm now being joined by another chairman, factional chairman of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, Sly Ezeokenwa. Welcome to Political Paradigm.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
I've just finished.
Even though somehow I always try as much as possible to take exception to the appellation of a factional chairman.
Well, I hope you could explain that to us before we're done. So let me just get into it, because I just finished speaking with Chief Ezeokenwa, who brought out some legal explanations. So I'm going to start off. Just 1 second. I'm just going to start off by asking you what legal claims you have to the national chairmanship of the All Progressives Grand Alliance.
First of all, before I start, I must say I actually looked forward to the possibility of having an interaction with him. I don't know why he refused to be together with me so that we can tell Nigerians the truth. I don't think if he has anything, if he doesn't have anything to hide, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't want to be with me so that we'll trash out these issues, and then Nigerians will know who is telling a lie and who is not. But be that as it may, by the law, you can only become the national chairman of a political party through a valid national convention of a political party. That is the law. If you recall the authority of PDP and Sheriff, in 2017 when there was that issue between Sheriff and McCarthy, the Supreme Court stated clearly that it is not courts that make national chairman. It is the party, the members of the party attending congresses or convention. It is at the national convention, and that is in line with the constitution of the All Progressives Grand Alliance. I became national chairman on the 31st of May 2023. That is the day I was validly elected the national chairman of APGA. And if you recall, on the 5th of September, when I applied for leave to appeal to the Supreme Court against the judgment of the Court of Appeal, in the ruling of the Court of Appeal, the Learned Justice, said something very important. He said that as a validly elected national chairman that have shown sufficient interest in the subject matter under litigation, which entitles me to leave to appeal. So, till date, I am the validly elected national chairman of APGA. And I say that without any fear of equivocation.
One of the things he talked about was that convention that produced you was banned by the court. Are you aware of that?
No. You see, these are the mistakes they make. First of all, who conducts a national convention? You're a Nigerian. Is it an individual or a political party? It's very simple. I'm aware that there was a matter which he instituted at the FCT High Court. And I think it was on the 10th of May that the court ordered the former national chairman not to conduct. APGA, the political party itself, was not a party. And as such, APGA was not bound. APGA had the right to continue with its convention, with or without the former national chairman. So it would have been different if APGA was joined in that matter. The only way APGA would have been bound by that order is if APGA was joined in the suit and APGA was a party. So APGA proceeded with its convention. You cannot determine any issue concerning a political party in the absence of that political party. This is elementary law, even for a first-year student. Incidentally, I'm a lawyer, and I understand him. He's not a lawyer. So, these issues may be difficult for him to really appreciate and understand. Now, secondly, on the 12th day of May, 2023, an Anambra State High Court delivered a final judgment because before that convention, there were some persons who felt concerned that the former national chairman, Dr. Victor Ikoye, wanted to extend his tenure beyond the constitutional 4 years. Recall, he was national chairman from 2015 to 2019, and then second term from 2019 to 2023. Under Section 223 of the Constitution, the maximum you can do is 8 years. You can't do beyond that. And so some persons felt that he was trying to extend his tenure. So they filed a suit asking the court to compel him to conduct APGA national congresses and national convention. And on the 12th day of May 2023, the High Court of Anambra State, because APGA was a party in that matter, APGA was sued as a second defendant. So APGA was ordered by the judgment, a valid judgment of a court, to go ahead with its congresses and national convention. Now, there are two conflicting issues now. There is an order restraining Oye, not APGA. And there is a judgment compelling APGA now to conduct convention. So APGA had no choice than to conduct convention. Because what we are talking about now is a constitutional mandate. It is no longer something that is about your whims and caprices. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has made it expressly clear that officers of a political party cannot stay in office beyond 4 years. So it's not just a question of the Constitution of the political party. It is equally a question of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is the ground norm. So based on that ground norm, APGA, in obedience to the final judgment in which he was a party, conducted national convention that produced me. So anybody who tells you that APGA was barred from holding convention is telling a lie. Let the person show you the judgment.
At the time, who was national chairman?
Of course, Oye was national chairman.
Was this not in abeyance with the Jigawa courts that gave that judgment and put Judo Koye there?
You see, let me tell you, I'll try as much as possible to explain these things because most people get confused. Every purported right which he claims to APGA was as a result of a journey to Jigawa. If you recall, and that was the confusion that arose from the correction done by the Supreme Court. Previously, the entire world knows that Oye was the national chairman of APGA. Now, sometime in 2021, in the rundown to the Anambra State governorship election, some miscreants, I used like to call that, who are actively playing in concert with him, proceeded to Jigawa. In that court, they told a story. The story they told was that him, Edozie Njoku, was the national chairman, and that they removed him, and that they now appointed Judo Keke. That was their story. Meanwhile, he was not the national chairman. So it's just like someone going to court. Let me give you an analogy, or draw an analogy for you. The governor of Lagos is Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Someone goes to court and says, that Shehu Okinbaloye, for example, was elected governor of Lagos, and that we subsequently removed Shehu and appointed you as the acting governor. And the court says, this issue you've raised is within the internal affairs of Lagos State. Does he make Shehu the governor of Lagos? It's a very simple question. Does he make Shehu because he was described in a suit? Because pleadings are mere allegations. And that's why I keep saying, I wish he is a lawyer. He will understand. Pleadings of a party are mere I can file a suit. I'm coming. I can file a suit and say that you're the president of Nigeria. Until I establish my claim, that is when a court will now make what we call a pronouncement. But until you establish your claim, so in that Jigawa High Court, the first thing the court did, if you bring the judgment, the first thing that court did was to validate the convention in Owerri. And now validated, the second thing he did was now to validate his purported suspension. Now, Oye being the rightful chairman, who was not even joined as a party, now applied for leave to appeal. That was what led to the judgment of the Court of Appeal in Kano. And the Court of Appeal looked at two crucial documents. One was the report of the National Convention, which was certified by INEC, being the regulatory agency that monitors the activities of political party and is duty-bound by the Electoral Act to attend conventions. And then, secondly, there was a judgment of an Anambra State High Court delivered in November 2020, which had validated that National Convention of APGA that produced Oye. Mind you, Oye was in his second term. It was not in his first term. Now, based on these two documents, the Court of Appeal, this is the judgment of the Court of Appeal Kano. The Court of Appeal said that by these two documents, the national chairman of APGA was Victor Ike Oye. So, while these people were proceeding to Jigawa to fabricate or tell a lie, this man was a validly elected national chairman. And it was based on that he was granted leave. And the court subsequently set aside the entire proceedings.
Which of the courts?
Of Jigawa, the Court of Appeal. So, everything that happened to Jigawa, including the story about Edozie Njoku, was set aside by the Court of Appeal Kano.
So what is this new appeal filed? The one that was filed on the 5th of September?
No, you need to understand these things. Now, after the Court of Appeal Kano set aside that, Jude Okeke appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court delivered a judgment and affirmed the judgment of the Court of Appeal. Subsequently, he brought an application to the Supreme Court for correction, because that's where the confusion came. And he said that there was an error in the judgment of the Supreme Court, where instead of mentioning his name, the Supreme Court mentioned Victor Oye. Now, I was in court when that matter was heard at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court asked us a very simple question. Do you agree that there is an error in this judgment? We said, yes, we agree. But we were trying to forestall this mischief.
What was the error you agreed
Now,
to?
the error is, when a court wants to deliver judgment, there's what we call background fact, material fact. The court will summarize the fact which led to the institution of the action or to the appeal. Because if you say that Mr. A is the governor of Lagos, the court will summarize the case of the plaintiff. And the court now said that the issue, whether the national chairman, instead of mentioning Edozie Njoku, he mentioned Victor Oye. Because that was how the plaintiff in Jigawa described Edozie. It is not a pronouncement. It is what we call summary of background. So the court said that issue, whether this man is removed or not, is within the internal affairs of APGA and therefore non-justiciable. Now, based on that, the court declined jurisdiction because the ultimate decision of the court is that the trial court had no jurisdiction to entertain that question.
What was the initial correction? Because what we know
is
that Justice Mary Orderly had to rewrite that order or judgment to correct the name.
That's what
which replaced.
We are saying the same thing.
So what's the fallout of that correction?
That's what we are saying the same thing. You see, there is a story to this. There is the allegation that Justice Orderly did this correction in chambers, first of all. If you recall, at a point, the former national chairman got Edozie Njoku arrested, and he was charged to court based on that correction because they said that he forged the judgment of the Supreme Court. Apparently, Justice Orderly did the correction. The correction had no bearing whatsoever with the substance of the leadership of APGA. If you read the judgment of Honorable Justice Mohammed Garuba, in the lead judgment in that correction, he stated expressly that the error occurred in the summary of background facts. It is not a pronouncement. And that's why Justice Garuba later said in the same judgment that that particular accidental slip or error does not in any way change or alter the substance of the judgment delivered by the Supreme Court. And if you read the concurring judgment of my Lord, the current CJN, you will see where in opening her own finding, she said that Edozie Njoku was not seeking to reopen the leadership contest in APGA. It is in her own judgment. So if he was not seeking to reopen the leadership contest, then how can you say that the judgment pronounced him? Now, are you aware that after this whole thing, because when the whole correction was done, INEC, who was a party to all the proceedings, knowing fully well that the correction was in respect of background fact, he wrote to INEC asking to be recognized. INEC said no, because the Supreme Court affirmed the judgment of the Court of Appeal, even in spite of the correction. Because if you see the conclusion of the Supreme Court, you will see, I hereby affirm the judgment of the court below, which includes the pronouncement that Oye was a validly elected national chairman. Now, what did they do? They proceeded to a federal high court to claim that by the correction, the Supreme Court has now pronounced Edozie Njoku as a national chairman. The judge is still alive.
And INEC recognized that.
No, I'm just telling you the story. Now, when they went to the federal high court, Justice Omotosho read the judgment of the Supreme Court, including the correction, and he made a clear pronouncement. He said that by the subsisting judgment of the Supreme Court, that correction did not alter the subsisting judgment of the Supreme Court on APGA leadership, which is that Victor Oye was a validly elected national chairman. And he said,
before you go into that, if that's your claim, why was
it is not my claim.
Why was Victor Oye
yes.
and INEC found to be in contempt of court?
Now that's where the story will end, because I'm trying to follow these things chronologically. After the correction, you must first of all agree that a court has already pronounced on the impact of that correction, that it did not pronounce him. After that court, they went to the Court of Appeal. They challenged that judgment to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal affirmed the judgment of the Federal High Court. What did they do next? They wrote to the Supreme Court. They wrote to the Supreme Court and they said that INEC has refused to comply with the corrected judgment of the Supreme Court, which pronounced Edozie Njoku as the national chairman. The Supreme Court, whose judgment you were talking about, replied him. I think I have the letter. The Supreme Court replied him, you can beam it live, where the Supreme Court stated expressly that the correction the Supreme Court said that the issues are within the internal affairs of APGA and not justiciable. And as such, the Supreme Court could not have pronounced Edozie Njoku as a national chairman. Now, when they received this document from the Supreme Court, they concealed it and proceeded to, because you see, the man is an expert in forum shopping. And if you read the judgment of Mary Odede, you will see where she condemned the attitude of the parties there engaging in forum shopping. Because what they clearly do is they shop for judgment all parts of the country.
No, when the thing about it is
yes.
that issues of law
yes.
would always be complicated to an extent. But when you look at INEC
yes.
obeying the court order
yes.
and not recognizing you as national chairman, it almost, because INEC does have legal counsels as well. So who would have perhaps studied this and come up with a conclusion?
Now, counsel or people in the legal department of INEC are not judges. They are not courts of law. It is what we call an opinion. You understand? When you read a judgment, you form an opinion. And when you form an opinion, your opinion is your opinion. So what happened is an INEC's opinion. Why do I say so? When the FCT High Court delivered the judgment, of course, INEC knows fully well that Edozie Njoku was never pronounced national chairman. INEC ignored the judgment because INEC was aware of subsisting judgment on the same issue, pronouncing Victor Oye then as a national chairman. And mind you, which is an issue nobody has even talked about, I hope you know that the issue or tenure under consideration was for a period between 31st of May 2019 and 31st of May 2023. It was a definite tenure. So that tenure had already elapsed. I had come on board, and it was expected that whatever issue Oye had with Njoku would have gone with a fluxion of time, because you cannot project yourself based on the Owerri Convention beyond 4 years in office. Whether you say...
But then it raises the legality of the convention.
No. I've explained that. I've explained it to you.
If he was national chairman at the time,
Yes.
If he was national chairman, as he claims at the time,
Yes.
would it be out of place for him not to have been the one to pick out, or at least pick out the convention committee?
And we're saying that he was never. I just drew your attention to the clarification done by the Supreme Court that he never pronounced him. So you're making an assumption which is not correct. The man has never been, was never. Now, if I finish, I'm going to draw your attention to the most important judgment which he does not like to talk about. And that is the judgment that will tell you that it is not possible that he could have been affirmed the national chairman of APGA. In 2021, while all this was raging on, in the build-up to the 2021 governorship election in Anambra, I was the legal advisor of APGA. I took up an action against Chief Njoku. I brought that action on behalf of the National Working Committee of APGA that was elected at the convention held in Awka. And I asked the court that there seems to be confusion about which of these purported conventions, Owerri and Awka, which one is the valid convention of APGA. That is the first judgment and the only judgment where a court has pronounced on the validity of these two competing conventions. And the judge stated that there is no proof anywhere that APGA conducted any convention outside of Awka in 2019. And there is no proof or evidence to sustain that Edozie Njoku was ever elected national chairman of APGA. And as such, the court held that he had no right to either parade himself as a national chairman or lay claim to the office of the national chairman. It's a valid judgment. When that judgment was delivered, because Edozie Njoku knew the far-reaching pronouncement that was made in that judgment, he proceeded on appeal. The president of the Court of Appeal herself, the erudite Honorable Justice Monica Dongban-Mensem, was the person that presided in that appeal. The justice that delivered the lead judgment, Honorable Justice Hannah Tusanke, she's now a justice of the Supreme Court. She made a very important determination. She said that the Court of Appeal is one throughout the country, and that they are bound by their previous judgment, except there are distinguishing factors. And she said that she cannot find any. And she said that they are bound by the earlier judgment of the Court of Appeal Division in Kano, which had affirmed the pronouncement that Awka Convention was a valid convention. And she said, in her words, that we are bound by the judgment of our learned brothers in Court of Appeal Kano, that as to these two competing conventions, the only valid national convention conducted by APGA was a convention held in Awka, and that Victor Oye was the validly elected national chairman of APGA. Edozie Njoku was the appellant. This judgment was delivered on the 9th day of September. This is the judgment. You see, the appellant is Chief Edozie Njoku, and one Okorochi Nedu Benedict. Myself, Barrister Sylvester Sly Ezeokenwa, I was the first respondent. Now, after this judgment, what did Edozie Njoku do? He did not appeal to the Supreme Court. So, this judgment is the extant judgment. This one as well as that of the Court of Appeal Kano. And incidentally, the Court of Appeal Kano was affirmed by the Supreme Court. Now, let me come back to what happened in Jigawa. Sorry, not Jigawa, FCT High Court Buhari. When that judgment was delivered, because you talked about INEC recognizing him, they proceeded with a contempt charge against the INEC chairman. I can tell you, the man was, let me just say, he was compelled by blackmail to do the recognition.
Blackmail by who?
Yes, because the court, notwithstanding, I don't, you see.
I mean, it's a court judgment, isn't it?
No. You see, there's something I don't do. I'm a lawyer and a minister in the Temple of Justice. I don't like staying on TV to probably cast or castigate judicial officers. So I'll try as much as possible to just tell you that after the judgment, they proceeded with a contempt charge against the INEC chairman.
And Chief Oye.
Now, there was an appeal and an application to stay proceedings which was filed at the Court of Appeal. under the rules of the court, when there is a pending application to stay proceedings or stay execution, which is at a higher court, the lower court is not meant to continue. In law, we call it judicial rascality. The judge refused to obey and wait for the outcome of the appeal. He proceeded. Now, so many judgments was brought to his attention. For whatever reasons, he ignored them. And he mind you, because people tend to mix up two things. The contempt charge was in respect of the convention, not in respect of his final judgment. Because that's why I'm before the federal high court.
The contempt charge was because he continued to parade himself as national chairman, and INEC refused to recognize Ezeokenwa as national chairman. That's the judgment we have.
You see, Nigeria is a very complicated country. That's the confusion. The judge, even the FCT High Court, did not pronounce Ezeokenwa as the national chairman of APGA. Bring the judgment.
I think Chief Victor Oye's response to this when I asked him was that Justice Madugu was misled.
You're not getting it. What did Justice Madugu say? Madugu only said that Oye had no right to act. He said Oye had no right to parade himself as a national chairman because Oye is not a lawyer. I'm a lawyer. Oye had no right to continue to occupy the party office. Oye had no right to conduct congresses. Oye had no right to do this. Oye had no right to do that. Now, how you know the orders made by a court is that you bring what we call the enrolled order of court. You will see the 5 orders made by the court. Now, you juxtapose it with the relief sought by the plaintiffs in that suit. One of the reliefs they sought was that by the corrected judgment of the Supreme Court, that they were still the duly elected officers of APGA under Ezeokenwa, and that their tenure was still running. The court did not grant this.
We're running out of time. It's so many legal terms to deal with here, and he's also said his piece. So we'd like to see how this is perceived by the public. But regardless, I think the next line of action is very important for you, because he's talked about reconciliation and how he's tried to reconcile. Of course, he wants to stay as national chairman. But I think equally important is what your thoughts are on reconciliation and what you think is reconciliation.
Yes. You see, I am not averse to reconciliation. Reconciliation must be based on the truth. It must be based on validity. If Ezeokenwa wants to become a member of APGA, he's welcome. APGA as a political, because we've said it from day one. There are roles that certain individuals have played at some point in the life of APGA that you cannot take away, no matter how you pretend. Chairperson Okorie was a founding national chairman before his expulsion. Njoku voluntarily left the party in 2007. Now, these two individuals, if they feel that they want to contribute to nation building, they are free to join the All Progressive Grand Alliance. As members, they can aspire to any office that they wish to aspire. But the point is coming in through the back door to hijack the leadership of the party. That is what is not acceptable to us as a political party. Why do I say this? Because a political party has a trajectory of ascension to its leadership. Because the question nobody is asking Njoku, my brother, if you remove these court judgment here and there, remove this judgment. Njoku, you said you conducted a convention in Owerri in 2019. On whose authority did you conduct the convention?
He said Victor Oye's convention committee.
My dear, we showed him the report, the notice of convention which Victor Oye gave to INEC. Because when you say convention committee, that convention committee was headed by Alhaji Abubakar Adamu in 2019. So which convention committee is the same man he's talking about was in Oka? You see, it is easy for you to tell a lie.
Just before we go, here's questioned your continued occupation of the office, national headquarters, and he says that national headquarters, according to him, is wherever he chooses, and he's moved that to Zone 4, and he's chosen to also accept, he chose to also accept your nomination of the Edo governorship candidate, just to avoid a conflict. How do you respond just before we say
when you say he chose to
avoid conflict? He says he's a legally recognized chairman, according to INEC as well.
When you say legally recognized, if you go to INEC website, you will see Chief Ezeokenwa in bracket
court order.
And we've consistently asked the question, and that was why we went to the Federal High Court. Show us the order of court that compelled you to recognize Njoku.
You still don't have it?
There is no order. That is not anywhere. They refer to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has issued a clarification that will never pronounce you.
Okay.
The next minute, they will refer to FCT High Court. We bring the judgment order. There is nowhere you see where the court pronounced Ezeokenwa as national chairman. So where is the court order? And that's why I'm telling you that the INEC chairman was misled because of the pending contempt charge to issue him recognition. And we are going to sort out these issues, definitely.
Very well. Just before we go, I don't know, I think the internal crisis within your party is affecting the management, because I checked your website and Chief Victor Oye is still listed as national chairman of your party. Perhaps you want to take a look at that.
You know, the truth is, maybe I don't know the domain name that you checked. I'm going to give you...
Okay.
Yes. We have apga.com.ng. That is the proper website for APGA. Okay. And you see that I'm listed as a national chairman. Forget about what INEC put up in their notice. Because INEC as an institution, the job the Constitution gives INEC is regulatory. It's not for INEC to determine the national chairman of political parties. Very well. And we have seen instances.
INEC is determining in this case, because like you said, it was
I'll give you an example.
We're out of time.
No, I'll give you an example. Sorry, just less than 30 seconds. When that Jigawa High Court did what they did, INEC issued recognition to Jude Okeke. Subsequently, the Court of Appeal struck it down and returned Oye as the national chairman. We've had these issues in the past. In 2009, 2013, 2017, 2021. It's more like a 4-year event for APGA.
I mean, it's beyond a 4 years. No, I feel it's a long-standing internal crisis.
And I can tell you what the problem is. It is just political merchants who are interested in grabbing Anambra. That is the only, you see.
So he said that almost suggests that there's no projection beyond Anambra State.
No, because that's the only state we control.
I wish we had more time, but I'd like to thank you very much for your time.
Well, probably would have had more time if he had agreed to be on the same interview with me, but he refused.
I'd like to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, that's it on Political Paradigm. I'd like to thank you very much. If you'd like to catch this conversation and the previous one, please go to youtube.com or channelstv.com and search Political Paradigm. Thanks for your time. I am Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.